Mondays of BS Spooktober. So
Woo!
If you were here with us last year, we did a Spooktober event on this channel, and this year we're changing it up a little bit. So last year we just had, Halloween themed videos, but this year we're doing that, but we're posting a video every day in October if everything goes according to plan. Caveat.
Ooh.
That's the plan. It's currently the end of July as we're recording this, so we are major prepping, but you'll be seeing this on October 1st.
And today we're kicking off BS Spooktober with Halloween. We're going to be reviewing the first Halloween movie, and as part of BS Spooktober, we're actually going to be reviewing all of the Halloween movies. Every single one made up until the release of the new film, and we'll review that one for you guys too this month. And so we're going to go through all of them. The remakes, the reboots, the bad ones, the good ones. But we're going to start with the original.
So to give you guys a little bit of backstory on our familiarity with the series, both of us have seen Halloween H2O, and you've seen the original previous to our watching the original for this review.
Correct.
So, leading up to this review, we sat down and watched it together. It was my first time seeing it. It was Steven's second or more.
I think second time, but I was like a young child when I first saw this movie, so I didn't remember most of it.
So it's basically a first viewing for both of us.
For those of you that have never seen a Halloween movie or don't know what it's about, it follows the iconic killer, Michael Myers, before he was an iconic killer, starting out, in this film at least, as he tries to kill for a multitude of reasons, but in this one, he's after a young girl played by Jamie Lee Curtis while she is in high school aged, and we don't know why he wants to kill her, but he wants to kill her.
So, we didn't mention this earlier, but this entire review will be spoiler-free, so if you have not seen this movie, we will not be giving out plot details. However, we do want to talk about the plot in terms of quality and pacing a little bit, maybe. So the plot of this movie, it starts pretty typical to like a slasher, slow burn horror movie, because I would say the first half of this movie is very slow and an extremely slow build-up.
It feels very much like classic horror because of how slow it is and how many like creepy, but there's really nothing creepy going on moments, which I think is just something of that time frame for those horror movies, because we recently watched Carrie for the first time, and the same thing in that movie is spooks. Nothing spooky is happening, but spooky.
And then the second half of the movie is when the plot really picks up because, the main characters kind of come to a head, things happen, and the horror elements definitely amp up beyond the, lurking, creepy, crawly behind corners to, actually face-to-face conflict.
And so Laurie, the main character, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, I think she was good in this film, kicking off that trend of final girls. I think this is kind of when that started as a thing, and Jamie Lee Curtis was one of the first, and I think she does a great job of it.
Well, to double that, she's also a second-generation Scream Queen, because her mother is the, original Scream Queen from Psycho.
Yeah.
I've never seen Psycho, but that's her mom, so she comes from a line of leading horror ladies.
And I think she is the epitome of the final girl trope, which I really enjoy. I think that she shows that she's capable and smart throughout the film, and it's fun watching it. She's an easy character to root for throughout this.
I will say something that surprised me about this movie, with it being kind of one of its original of its time. I found that the main character, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, wasn't a dumb character, and you do have the dumb side characters that are like, oh, what's behind here, and that kind of stuff. But Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, was actually very smart. She was appropriately scared and appropriately apprehensive in parts, but I never felt like, you're so dumb, what are you doing? Kind of thing, which was actually really refreshing. And then, of course, our other main character in this film is Michael Myers, the villain. He's fascinating. I've been around quite a bit of horror now for the past couple years. We've been consuming a lot of horror. There's still a lot I haven't seen, but what I have seen out of slasher films is that they typically don't have a slow attacking villain. They might have a slow build-up, but when you finally get to things, the villain's fast, he's quick, and Michael Myers is not. And it makes for a very interesting dynamic between him and his victims, and I think it was very original for this time period, I can imagine, based on some other horror films that we've seen from that time period.
And the way he kind of creeps on people for a while, because, like, a good chunk of this film is like the
Stalking.
spooks rising, and he's there, but not necessarily engaging in the typical slasher film stuff yet. And it really ups the spook factor, which, as an aside, Michael Myers has a lot of flair with how he decides to murder people with the creeping around.
Which I think we might add a small spoiler section at the end of this because I do kind of want to talk about it. But yeah, for such a slow character and kind of a slow build up to get to that big impact point, when that big impact point comes, he's got a little flair for the theatrical, and it was highly entertaining.
I think one of my favorite things about Michael Myers and this time period of horror movies in general is that, like, bending into the supernatural. So this movie takes place in the real very much so, but Michael Myers still has a couple of supernaturally elements. Sometimes
he's invincible.
Yeah, sometimes he's quicker than he needs to be. Yeah, he just doesn't seem to die, and he's extra strong. You know, there's some scenes where he does things that a normal human wouldn't just be able to do with normal human strength. And so I think that ups the creep factor where he, like, moves into that unstoppable killer territory, and that's just fun to watch.
And I'm interested to see as we watch the series if some of that ends up being explained or not.
We'll see. I have a feeling that we'll talk about this at the end, our expectations, but I think it'll just get crazier from here. I think one of the first things we noticed about this film while watching is the music. There are 2 tracks on this soundtrack. There is the iconic do 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 do, and then there's just this, like, generic creepy piano organ music, and it just switches between those 2 tracks
Constantly.
the entire film. So, the entire film, just one, every scene is part of the other.
So, with the slow buildup of the first half, I personally found the music very distracting after the 4th time hearing it in the first half. Like, the first couple times it came on, it's like, ooh, creepy setting, okay. And then it started coming back more, and it was, like, pulling me out of the movie a lot. And I was like, can you make it stop? I think that's something to note, is that John Carpenter wrote, directed this movie, and he also did the music. John Carpenter is not a musician. Or a composer.
And so these are pretty simple tracks, and I think it really shows. I think if they kept that simplistic style, but there was like 6 or 7 of them, it wouldn't have been as bad.
I think that's the thing. Like, I don't think they're bad themes. I think they portrayed the emotion and the suspense that is desired, but I think it was overly done to where it becomes comical instead of scary. Now, swinging back over to another aspect of this film, and something that is a very big positive in my opinion, is the cinematography. The cinematography for this is very claustrophobic and, like, very, like, handheld camera, like, perspective of, like, whoever's creeping kind of thing. But even when it's not that perspective, it's just a very closed-in shots a lot of times, or, like, the camera moves as if someone's actually moving behind it, and it just added so much palpable atmosphere to this movie that I think just made it so much more real for an audience member.
Overall, I think we both really enjoyed this film. I forgot most of it, and it was a lot of fun to watch. It just feels like a classic horror movie, which it is, and it has some campy elements to it, but overall is still a thriller, still creepy, and Michael Myers is still just as spooky as he was when he first released way back when, and I love this one.
I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of my new favorite horror movies. We've been watching a lot of classic horror movies lately, and I've been digging them, which makes me feel like I need to get more into classic horror. So now that we've finished wrapping up our thoughts on the first film, let's talk a little bit about our expectations of the next 9 to 10 films in this franchise. 9 films that are already out, 10 including the brand new one. Because we are including reboots, we're including every single Halloween movie under the franchise title.
Yeah, so the Rob Zombie reboots that came in way later, and the newest one, and all the weird offshoots.
So many.
Like I said before, I have a feeling that they're going to just get ridiculous. I have seen all the Friday the 13ths, and they completely go off the rails after, like, I think the second or like the third one, fourth one. They just start getting crazy for like 12 more movies. So I have a feeling this is going to be the same. Like we said before, we've already seen H2O. We're going to rewatch it and give you our review.
Yeah, because it's been a couple years.
But that one, if I remember correctly, was even like more into like the supernatural element for him. He turns into more of a like monster than like a
Although,
guy.
if I remember correctly, you do get a bit more backstory in H2O.
Maybe so. I don't.
We'll have to rewatch.
We're gonna rewatch it and you'll find out. But I have a feeling that the camp might increase because they get a little goofy because he's just gonna become so powerful, like start teleporting around and stabbing people.
I'm really interested to see how modernization of horror influences this series, especially as we get into, I think there's 2 reboots that came out in like mid-2000s.
Really edgy
like
ones, yeah.
2009-ish, something like that. So I'm really interested to see how this series morphs as it goes. I don't expect all of it to be good. I expect like the first one to probably be the best. But that's okay. I think we're going to have fun with it. I'm not going in like wanting critically acclaimed films. So we'll see how it goes.
So guys, that is our review. If you don't want to get spoiled on anything for the movie, if you haven't seen this one, we highly recommend you go watch it. But we're going to talk about a few spoilers here real fast, and that's going to be it for the video. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys later. And we're going to talk spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so I want to expand a little bit more on Michael Myers' flair because it was something I was completely not expecting in this first film, and I loved it. So the scene where you finally find out that he's like murdered all her friends in the house or whatever, and the bed is like has like what 1 or 2 of them dead, and then somebody's like crumpled in a closet or something, but then the headstone is on the bed.
His sister's headstone, yeah.
I was not expecting that. I was like, wow, Michael Myers be like, I'm gonna prep this, I'm gonna do some scares that require some props. Like, what?
And I think that whole scene is probably the best one in the film because
stunning sequence.
Because she freaks out, she's scared, she sees the dead bodies, the whole scene. And then you get, I think, one of the coolest scenes in the movie, and the way they did this lighting was cool. She actually looked up on
I was reading some trivia after we watched the movie, and the part where she's up against the wall and you see Michael Myers kind of move into, like, the doorway, I thought it is a practical effect either way, but the practical effect I thought it was him, like, moving into the light so slowly that it just looked like he appeared. That's not what they did. What they did was they used like essentially like a dimmer light thing to where he was standing in the same position the whole time, and they just slowly did a light to where it didn't look like a light was actually being shown on him. It just looked like he just appeared. Oh, it's such a cool shot.
So fantastically creepy. Just he's right here and just the slow, like you realize he's there.
Well, and it picks up on the white mask really quickly.
And the timing of that, like just a second before she realizes it, so you're just
so good.
Masterful.
I think that's really all the spoiler talk I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to geek out about it.
Yeah, that's it. There were just some cool moments, and I'm sure we'll have more moments as we go through the series, but we don't want to spoil those movies for those that haven't seen it. So if you just stayed through this and got spoiled and haven't seen it, well, too bad for you.
It's still worth seeing with your eyeballs.
Absolutely. And as always, we want to know what you guys think about the Halloween franchise, Halloween movies. Don't spoil any future movies for us, but let us know if you are hyped for this series. I know we are. We have a lot of fun going through these big series. So let us know in the comments below. And if you have other recommendations or things you want out of 31 Days of Spooktober, most of this is prepped beforehand, but we're very interested in your guys' feedback and what you want. And hopefully you enjoy this kicking off of this whole month of videos, Halloween themed, that we're going to be bringing you guys.
As always, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It does influence how we plan future videos. If you like us and want to see more things from us and want to be notified of all the videos during our 31 Days of BS Spooktober, please hit subscribe. We would love to have you join our creepy BS Review family. And if you want to check out any other videos we will have them right over there. We have a lot of different subjects, lots of different things for you to check out. And other than that, we'll see you guys in our next video. Bye!